Welcome to yet another episode of TBN Meets. Thank you very much for joining us. It's one of those very few moments where you say, this is happening for the first time. And of course, it's the first time that whilst we are recording, there is thunder in the background. So it means, I think this signifies the power of this program today. And of course, we do have the General Secretary of EBM International, that's how I was told to say it, Michael Kisskalt, Professor Michael Kisskalt. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
We also have Tintswalo Mujapilo. Thank you very much for joining us. And of course, Ria is taking over from Abusa Fletcher as the Southern Africa representative of EBM International. Now, there is a little bit of touchiness about the name. Mm-hmm. You guys have to tell me what is the story behind EBMI and EBM International.
Yes.
EBM has been founded after the Second World War by 3 European Baptist unions, Germany, Switzerland, and France, to work in Africa, to do missionary work as Europeans among the Africans. And this work has grown until now also in Latin America, in India, in Turkey. But the special difference to these former times is that it is not the Europeans who lead the mission, but our mission philosophy is that we do it together. The Africans do not only receive help, but they can also give something into the mission and assume their responsibility also for the mission in Germany. It's a mission understanding on eye level. And therefore we have a South African president, we have a Norwegian vice president, both are female. And this is the international, it shows that not the Europeans do something for the world, but we work together all over the world to bring the gospel into the world.
All right, so is that why the name changed from EBM to EBM International?
Yes, this is the reason that we added the E, the I,
right,
to EBM International. Therefore, it's not only a small thing, but for us it signifies a change of seeing things.
Ria, tell us a little bit more about your understanding of EBM International.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. EBM International is an organization in the landscape of missions that really focus on transforming God's love by inspiring hope to communities. And how we do that is to partner with the local Baptist church globally to create a platform where we address issues of justice, bring restoration, and also to, bring hope to the communities. Also doing that by, sustainability, achieving sustainability through the projects that we work with. So it's really reaching out really to help to inspire hope by partnership, transparency, holistic mission, to also empower women. Yeah.
Wow. You talk about empowering women.
Yeah.
This is one of your strategic approaches. Why necessarily that? Is there history as well behind that?
Perhaps Michael can tell us.
The history behind that is the experience that in many regions of the world, also in many countries of Africa, women are important. They are really pillars of the churches. Yeah. But they have no executive power in the churches. And we think that God has given a lot of gifts and responsibility also to women. And we want to foster this attitude. And it's not easy because
I can imagine.
It is a cultural thing. For us Europeans, in the meantime, it's easy to argue like that. But in other context, also in India, it's very difficult to say, please share your power, also in mission, with your sisters, not only the brothers, but also the sisters.
That is wonderful. And I mean, you're talking about it, but you're also implementing it, because we're talking about Abusa Fletcher, and now Ria is taking over.
Yes.
How much excited are you about this whole responsibility?
I'm very excited, and with that excitement, there is a element of, I would say, some anxiety, but it's good anxiety. And I say it's good anxiety because it's a paradigm shift that's coming, particularly into the region that I'll be taking over, being a woman, a young woman. But I am fully persuaded that, as Michael has already alluded, that women are equal to the task. And I believe God has given me the skill and the ability. And I believe it's not about being equal to the gender, but being equal to the task. And that's really my position. And I believe that by God's grace, it will foster a culture where in the region, it is seen that women are equal to the task. So yes, I'm very excited. I'm looking forward, and I'm mostly excited because I take the baton from Abusa Fletcher, who really believes in women leadership, and he really supports the work of women. So that is really exciting that I have a predecessor that has already paved the way. That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things in my work for God at TBN that I really am excited about is the team around me. And that made me over time to realize that, wow, thank you, God, for the privilege of having a team.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of dynamics with a team, and also creative people are very demanding in terms of attention, in terms of the different stuff that they do, and that needs for you to pay attention to it so that you could be able to be successful in what you do.
Sure.
Now, what is one thing or two or three that you would say even to Fletcher would equip you to be able to do your job as a way of them supporting you, what you're doing?
I believe, the transition into the role has been a rather unorthodox approach, particularly in my journey professionally. This is my first experience where the predecessor is there to ensure that the transition is
smooth.
That's right. And that is already equipping me to be able to continue with the relationships that have been established, to expand on the relationship that has been established. So I really appreciate this unorthodox approach that they have cultivated for me as I do my onboarding induction. So that in itself is already equipping me, because he's not just handing over the work, but he's also, introducing me to the relationship that has already been established so that I can continue with them, build on those, and, sustain the relationships.
Wow.
Yeah.
Prof, any addition to that?
Yes, one important thing is our team has its players all over the world. In former time, it was in the mission house in Germany. There were Europeans or Germans. The mission house is in Germany because it's the birthplace of the mission, and it's mostly financed by German Christians who sustain it. But it was important for us that the high responsibility for the work is in the regions where we work. Therefore, we have a regional representative in India, Southern Africa, Central Africa, and Latin America. And this is our management team. And it's very important when we meet, often via internet, that we have an exchange, that we bring forward our work together, and that we learn from one another.
You mentioned the fact that mostly your work is supported by German or European Christians.
Yes.
What would you say is the importance of the African Christians being involved in financing this, especially because you are saying now we are all working together?
Yeah, this is a real challenge. Our ideal is that we all bring together our financial possibilities. But in many African churches, the Christians had not learned to share also their money with the local churches, with the union, and also with the higher institutions like EBMI. Therefore, we are in a learning process. Certainly, I could say the African can bring in a lot of strong spirituality. And this is like that, but it's not enough. The Africans are not only spirituality, they also have
Physical needs,
possibilities, need and possibilities.
Wow. Now, having heard that, what would you say is your strategy in bridging that gap?
Ooh, it's a long-term strategy, because I think a mindset shift requires training. It requires understanding of really the benefits of the project to the communities at large. And I believe one of the things is perhaps sometimes it's probably limited information regarding the work that we do, and perhaps what has been communicated, or when EBM International came into partnership with some of the unions, it could be that at the time the situation was different, and over the years there's been a lot of development in terms of economies and how things are done in the different countries. So as we are moving with the times, it's also necessary that even information transfer is also elevated to a point where, the unions can understand the benefit of the project, not just as a European organization supporting or extending support to them, but rather how do we then, as the local organizations or conventions, how do we then support these projects that are actually for the benefit of our own communities? So really, I believe it's in the long term. Over time, it would take some time, gradually, exponentially to grow the mindset, and I believe one of the things is if one can make a paradigm shift to service, when people seek to be of service. So if they can understand that these projects is not just to be served, but for the locals to also serve these projects, so that they can in turn contribute to the communities where they hail from, or whatever it may be. But it's really a mindset shift that I believe one needs to work around. So for me, the plan is really to do, information transfer on what really we stand for, our standing orders, and particularly with the current unions, and then with the local churches within the unions, and then I believe it will filter to the communities.
Yeah. So basically there's a lot of pressing on that needs to be done.
Yes.
but I must say there is already a change, because
Wonderful.
The contributions of the Germans go down because our churches become weaker and weaker. Whereas the churches, for example, in Latin America, have developed very strongly, and also the economy in Latin America. Therefore, the contributions of the Latin American has grown
growing
quite a lot.
Wow.
And I understand that the Africans, for example, many economies are not well developing, and but when it comes that the economies develop, I hope that they can give more for the common work.
Wow. You're talking also about the church growing weaker and weaker in Europe. What would you say is the attribute to that?
Yes, it's the movement of secularism.
Of what?
Of
secularism.
Secularism,
Right.
yes. And yes, I don't know. We have lost somehow our youth. I don't know why. Perhaps the German Baptists were too conservative. I don't know. But also the other denominations. And yes, and I would also say they are the times of God. There were the times of God when Christianity became strong in Europe. And now the times of God where Christianity becomes stronger in Africa or Latin America.
The reason why I'm asking you that question is because I would love to understand what is it as Africans that we can learn from that so that we don't repeat the same mistakes. But also, I was watching WhatsApp status of someone on WhatsApp. There's this wagon, an illustration of a wagon, and it's written religion. And young people, specifically young people, are pushing it over the cliff. And that says to me, somehow they are not interested. What is it that we could be doing wrong, even as Africans, or even globally, for young people not to want God?
I think it is very important to show that to believe in Christ has its big value for the life here. It's not only for eternity, but it's for the life here. And even as a Christian, you renounce at some things which the world is doing to become richer and richer, or other things. You renounce at this, but you are growing in your hearts and in your happiness, because happiness is not only changing sexuality, happiness is not only having more money, but to have a sense in your life, that you know why you are existing and what your purpose is. And this is an important message that we should preach.
Yeah, wow. That's really wonderful, and thank you very much for being elaborate about that, because these are the responsibilities that we are faced with as children of God. And I love the fact that you talk about, we shouldn't think that happiness will be brought about by changing our sexuality or focusing very much on being rich and material stuff. And how do you think these things should be addressed as Africa? Because I think you would know that there is a saying that goes, when America sneezes, the whole world catches a cold. And I'm not only saying that about America. There's so many things that we learn from other countries that become part of us. How should we address these things where people are changing their sexuality, where people are focusing on wrong things, to the extent that even before the interview we were talking about children, even here in South Africa, dying in numbers out of malnutrition.
Yeah, we live in a world where it's no longer about if one country, you know, like America sneezes. We live in times of digitization, right? Where even Africa can sneeze and the whole world, you know, coughs, because you've seen with songs like Jerusalem, they become so trendy. And if we live in times of trends, and I think as the Christian community, we have not tapped into that landscape where we could actually be. Jerusalem is a very prophetic song, that song that and one of the things is, why do we not use those platforms? And one of the seminars I attended recently was media impact, and how, you know, what Christians are focusing on is not necessarily having that social impact, whereas these platforms that encourage, you know, transgender and all these lifestyles is actually they are at the forefront of social impact. And I believe that if we as the Christian community can tap into those platforms, and where Jerusalem is not just a dance, but it's a message that is coming across, I believe in that way we'll be able to participate in, you know, the decisions that are being made by the youth, but also that we need to, as the church, and I'm talking, you know, globally as the church, is to be inclusive of the youth. Whereas sometimes you'd find that, you know, the programs within the church are not necessarily accommodative to the youth, or maybe there is limitations and things like that. But how do we then bring them into the space where they are able to contribute and see the value of Christian living within the context of a church, and how do they then impact the community? How do we involve them, the youth, in mission work? How do we help them to understand issues that are affecting communities? I believe that is one of the ways that we can at least begin there, is how do we have a social impact that is Christian-based?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yes, but not to forget that the church congregations must live what they believe.
That's right.
All the battles within the churches and between the churches.
Yeah.
With these things, we lose our young people.
That's
You,
true.
you're speaking from experience there, right?
Yeah.
What would you say one thing, maybe in 1 minute, that stands out about what you have been doing, specifically in Africa?
It was very important for me to train people in their faith. This was my calling. My calling as a young man at the age of 17 at a youth crusade of Operation Mobilization, a mission organization. I had the calling cross the border.
Yes.
I call you to cross borders. Not only cross borders internationally, but also culturally and also concerning my comfort zone with people. And my message would be really, if you want to strengthen your faith and you want to grow in your faith for you as an individual and for the congregations, then open up to the people around you.
Amen.
Because when you open up to the people around you, you discover God, the Almighty, in you, because they also are images of God. God has his history with these people. That is, our faith stays alive when we are committed in this mission of God to be open for people and to share our faith.
Wow. Wow.
And this is what I wanted to teach the pastors, the evangelists, the church leaders. This was my calling.
Wow. Wow. Are you happy that you have been able to at least do that?
Yes, I'm happy about it. I'm really happy. And people feel it, that I have my calling and I try to live according to my calling. And I see the blessing of God.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you very much, Prof,
Yeah.
for the work that you have done in Africa. And this is the reason why you are sitting here, because we want to say thank you and we celebrate you, all the work that you have been doing, your obedience to God. This program is all about putting a spotlight on such things and celebrating them.
Yeah.
I don't know about this one. Maybe she's still gonna do a whole lot of stuff, and I believe, and she's gonna outlive some of the stuff that you have done, or outdo some of the stuff that you have done. What would you say is your hope for Southern Africa, but really for Africa, as you are obedient to what God has called you to do through EBM International?
Firstly, our partnership with EBM International is with the Baptist Conventions. And one of my hope is to see harmony or unity within the leadership of the conventions, because I believe influence begins with leadership. If the leadership is united, impact is inevitable. So if my hope is to really see a united leadership, of course, there would be some issues around some of the leadership, and if that can be something that is restored and there's unity, I'm fully persuaded. So for me, one of the most important things would be leadership development within the conventions, and ongoing development, to say, and really to see the projects not just grow because they are being supported by, EBM International, but because there is an effort done from the locals to sustain the projects. And also, as Prof. Michael mentioned, that as the economies develop and there's changes, that we see the actual change in the work that they do to support the projects that we're doing. That is really my hope, but also to really help to address, some of the issues that are really affecting the communities to move forward. Because, as you know, we strive for social cohesion, and one of the things is the inequality, the injustice, and if our projects can really help to address some of those issues, that is really my hope.
The different projects that you are doing, and I'm sure people can find them on your website.
Yeah.
If someone is listening and really touched by these different projects, by the work that you do, how would they get involved?
When these are people living in Southern Africa,
Wherever.
it's the best to contact RIA, for example,
All right.
or to write an email to the email they find at our homepage. Another possibility might be to contact the Baptist Union in his country, who might be member of our mission organization.
All right. Ria?
The information to contact me, my contacts are there on the homepage. It's EBM International. That is our website. They can check it out, and they would find my contact details there.
I see excitement in both of you.
Yes, we're really excited.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your obedience to the call of God. Thank you very much for the impact that you have made in people's lives through your obedience, and the impact that you are still going to do.
That's right.
Through what God has said you should do in Southern Africa.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank
It was
you.
wonderful speaking with you guys.
Thank you.
Right.
We're also happy.
Cool. This has been TBN Meets. Thank you very much for having joined us. Of course, if you are interested in what EBM International is doing, you can visit their website. But otherwise, whatever you have learned from what they have had to say, please apply it in your life so that there is godly change. Until we meet next time, adios.